Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I just got back from a sparring session and I had a very good question asked, and it was, how do I enter? How do I move forward without getting hit, without getting countered? What is my entry strategy to make sure that I can safely get in and not get punched at the same time? This is something that many people struggle with, especially when they're learning the sport. They're very concerned about moving in and actually letting their hands or feet go because they don't want to get punched. And we have to get this down, otherwise you're always on the defensive and you're always basically going to be a punching bag. So today I'm going to give you lots of tips on your entry forward and how to stay safe. So a massive part of fight sports, something you need to recognize, you need to understand, is every reaction creates a reaction. And if I move forward and I don't get a reaction out of my opponent or whoever I'm training with, something's wrong. They're always going to react unless you just completely outskill the person and the guy's just frozen. So to properly enter, we need to make sure we are really dialing in a few things. And the first one that is very important to dial in is making sure we do not walk straight and then try and throw our shot. Sometimes we can get away with that, but very often we cannot, especially if we have the shorter arms out of the two competitors, the two fighters. Because if I walk straight in and all the other guy has to do is throw the jab to keep me at range, every time I walk in, I take a shot. I walk in, I take a shot. So to stop that, I have to move my head off the center line as I make my initial move. Now that may be a jab, it may be a cross, but my movement forward needs to make sure that my head does a little slip. It's essentially like I'm doing that. My head does not just go sideways, it also goes slightly forward. And I move off on this angle as I probably push forward and throw my jab. The simplicity behind this is what makes it effective. Trying to do anything crazy hard and difficult is less likely to be able to actually pull off in the moment. So I just go to my stance, I push forward, I get my head off the center line, keeping everything else protected, and then once I've closed the distance, now I'm free to let those hands go into the full combination. And the head off the center line is not just for anybody who has the shorter arms, it's good for any situation. If I'm entering and I find that, oh, when I enter, that punch is coming, just move the head off the center line, always remembering that it's best to move the opposite direction of the arm you're throwing with. So if I'm throwing with my left arm, I'm going to drop to my right. If I throw with my right arm, I'm going to drop to my left. From here, the next thing that we can talk about is making sure before we enter, we fake. Because as I said at the beginning, a reaction is going to create a reaction. If every time I move forward, I go into my attack and my opponent can time that and just go boom, boom, every time he sees movement and he knows he's going to hit my head because I walk straight forward, that's no good. So what I do from the outside is I fake. I just give those little twitches. It could be the pump of the shoulder, it could be snapping the hand out halfway, it could be just a half movement forward. And what your opponent is going to do when they see that is they're either going to back up or maybe they'll throw their own shot. When they throw the shot out, and then they start rechambering, that's your moment to attack. You want to get them when they're extended in a vulnerable position. Those fakes are massive to create openings and make sure you're not walking straight into punches. They keep you safer upon entry. And before we move on to my next tips, guys, please make sure if you're enjoying the video, if you appreciate the content, you find it helpful, give the video a like. It helps the channel grow by just working within that YouTube algorithm. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you guys haven't got subscribed, do that now to make sure you don't miss out on future content. And of course, that bell notification, give that a little ring, a little ding, just so when new videos come out, which is constant, you aren't missing too many of them. You don't want to miss the important information. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is having super tight guard and being aware of more than what just this hand is doing upon my entry. If I focus just on this, and I'm not aware of what my chin is doing, what my shoulder is doing, what my other hand's doing, all of that, then yes, I am very likely to walk in and get countered. So what I can do, if we're not utilizing fakes, or if I've tried the fakes and they're not working, And then I've tried to get my head off the center line and I'm going, shoot, I'm still getting tagged. Well, now's the time to think, okay, I fake, I move in, but is my shoulder high enough? Is my chin tucked in? Is my other hand really snug? Now from here, if the guy happens to throw a shot, it won't really matter. Like, yes, there are openings, but so many less than me moving in like this. There versus there. You can see everything is open. It's very, very important to make sure our hands are in a tight defensive position when we make that initial entry. Once we've got to here, if we feel like the guy's shelled up and there's openings, then maybe I can open up a little bit more and I can be a little bit more frivolous, I want to say, with my defense, but I always prefer to keep everything super snug. So on that initial entry, tight, tight. So then I can follow up and get those combos flying. And the final tip I have for today, to get that entry done safely and to not get countered, is to make sure we are very explosive and at the right distance as we move forward. So for instance, if I'm gonna punch myself and I'm starting from way back here and now I leap in, that's a very far movement and it's gonna give people the opportunity to throw that counter and hit you on the way in. We wanna understand range. I know, if this was a real person, that right now I'm outside of punch range, I know that. But I know I can be kicked from this distance. And I need to understand all that. This is why drilling and drilling and drilling with somebody in front of us is so important. If you only do shadow boxing and bag work, you don't get that same understanding. From here, I know I'm just outside of range of a side kick or something. And now, if I hollow out, I'm no longer within distance. I know that if I'm here and I can get punched right now, just punched, like just there, if I lean back, I'm at that safe range. So I put myself just within that zone where I know I can almost touch them. And then from there, when I move, good luck responding faster than I can move forward. They're not going to be able to move backwards in the time I can move forwards, and then I can let those hands go. So the distance is key. Don't get caught up out here. And then, as we just mentioned, if I move forward slowly, blah, blah, and I'm very stagnant, very sluggish on that entry, again, it's going to give this guy more time. So we need to get very explosive. I know you guys can't see my feet, so I'm going to draw one foot up here. When I go into my stance, instead of being flat-footed on the floor, I prefer to dig in the ball of the foot. The ball of the foot on the back foot is going to be the primary source of touching the ground. My heel is disconnected. And I like utilizing this position because if we think of a sprinter, if you're a sprinter setting up to run as fast as you can, this is the ground and this is the foot. We don't go flat. Let me get closer here so you can see. We don't go flat because that's not going to give us much explosive movement that direction. We lift the heel off the ground and we push off the ball of the foot. Well, same idea when we want to explode forward very fast, we disconnect our heel. Once we've disconnected our heel and then we explode forward, we are so much faster and it's so much more difficult, if we understand the right range, for this person to respond at the same speed which we just moved. So we want to have everything incorporated sort of into one attack bubble in our mind. We want to make sure we're faking. You know, just throwing those twitches out, twitching away, just making things difficult for this guy to time and understand when I'm really going to attack. We want to make sure that as we enter, we get our head off the center line. Off the center line so that if they throw the shot where our head was initially, it'll move by us. We want to make sure that when we do throw our shot, everything's tight. So we minimize the ability for that counter shot to actually land flush to our head, and then we want that understanding of distance so we don't have to move from too far away, and also that explosive motion because we have the ball of our foot but not the heel connected. Those are all my tips for entering and not getting countered, not getting punished for every time you move forward. You guys will have to drill these. They won't just come natural like you'll get it in a week. Work and work and work on them. If you guys appreciate the episode, if you found it helpful, please give the video a like. If you haven't already, join the channel and get subscribed. Give me that little bump up to 100,000 subscribers. As always, guys, train hard. I'll see you back here soon for another video.